We're back, guys. Hello to the Trickway with Grey Gamer and myself, Trev. Hello, welcome back. We took a week off last week because we were a little bit busy. Stranger
Yeah,
Worlds
real
is
life
back.
popped up.
I'm
We got
excited.
new Trek though. New Trek. Finally.
Before everything else is delayed and
Before everything else goes down the crapper, right?
Did they not?
Exactly.
Did they not delay Discovery until next year now? Which blows my mind. I'm sure it's
Well,
next year, isn't it now?
oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it has to be with the writer's strike. The longer it goes on, the further down it's going to move. So
What does that
I
achieve,
don't think.
though?
I don't know if. I don't know if Lower Decks is in the can already. If it is, then that would be the next new Trek show to come out. If it's not, then
I want Discovery, man, so we get our conclusion that ends well after performing so badly at the start, you know. So at the end of it, we can go, yeah, it was okay, the series overall, you know. So see,
the thing that I'm kind of wondering about though is that why are they pushing it down so far? Because now
yeah,
that they know there's a writer's strike, I would think they would change their mind because once Strange New Worlds is done, that's it. There's
yeah.
nothing else in the can. So they
Uh,
would be better to push it up and let it go, and then by that time maybe the strike will be over. But still,
well, I'm grateful we've got something just now for the next half months at least. So
yep,
there's that. So it was the opening episode of season 2, episode 1, The Broken Circle. It's continuing that episodic arc with the, as we'll cover at the end of the episode, kind of backlying story that goes on throughout the season, but it's still episodic, which is important because I
sure.
didn't like this style that they had before. It doesn't really work so well with Trek.
It depends though because it worked with Picard season 3. Um, So it's not that it doesn't work. It's just that it's nice to have episodic back again because some people just like it. Look, you
That's it.
remember the Orville? The Orville was all episodic, and look how good that was. So
True.
they s-
Yeah.
they still had the underlying arcs, but they had that it was mostly episodic, and it was really good. So
I can't ask for more. Okay, so kicking off the review of this episode, we have yet another cool intro opening scene of a Star Trek episode. And that's with Space Dock and Enterprise getting upgrades. You see a lot of shuttlecrafts, right, from that era,
yeah,
and then they're zooming about like fighter jets, man. It's crazy. I'm like, what are they doing, man? Like, has Starfleet cleared them to do this? This has got to be dangerous flying in airspace or space, I guess. And then I'm thinking this is probably how they're supposed to fly. Whereas in the original series and even TNG, they didn't quite have the technology and the
yeah.
CGI for them to zipping about and looking great. So I guess I let it slide, great, but it's a nice little cool opening scene.
I was almost thinking like, although I'd have to go back and look at it again, whether some of them were bots that were working on the Enterprise.
Yeah,
Doing the upgrade or whatever. I could. It went by so fast, I wasn't really sure. I have to go back and look again now.
there were worker bees, but before that,
Yeah,
before we hit the Enterprise, you see a bunch of
yeah, we
little
had the shuttle.
shuttles
Yeah. Did
on
you
the.
notice that the even though they looked pretty much like the old ones, they had like harder lines, little sleeker, angles here and there.
But the shuttlecrafts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Again, I'd have to go back and freeze it to look at it properly, but it looked like a little sleeker, a little cleaner, a little sharper.
they were refined.
You know.
It was
Yeah.
what it should have looked like if they'd had the technology back then to make it
Right.
worth the while.
Right.
So this is why I don't get too hung up about that. As long as it's vaguely in the same kind of style as how it was, then
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder what kind of upgrades they're getting. They don't say. But then
Yeah.
again, it goes back to that one line, Gray. If only they said that at the end of Star Trek Picard Season 3. Titan becomes Enterprise. Gee, oh, but it's getting a vast array of upgrades, and within that year, it's going to be the most lethal starship in the whole of the Federation, you know, but they didn't. But they got it
Well,
right here.
if we see it for Legacy, then maybe we'll hear that when that's done and the writer strike's over 5 years from now. Only kidding.
No, hope not. God, man. They don't say what upgrades they're getting. I just hope they do, though, and it's not just they're getting upgrades for the sake of it. I'd like to see something. Although saying that, the Enterprise and TOS doesn't really talk about many super duper things it
Yeah.
can do, so maybe they're better being stum and
Yeah.
not saying much.
Maybe
Um,
better food replicators, bathrooms.
The important stuff, man. Never mind the weapons and
Right.
shields and nothing.
Always,
Uh,
always got to have a good crapper.
good John. Um, yeah, so after a little cool shiny opening, which would have probably cost them a few quid to do, we have Pike and Una having a little discussion about or the situation she's in, because she, as we know, at the end of the last season, she was arrested for basically lying on her application to Starfleet because she's ethically engineered and they don't
Right.
allow that.
She's
So
an Illyrian, right? She's an Illyrian, I think
we're
they
not
called it.
getting mixed up with the new
No, no. Yeah, we'll
chief
get to that.
engineer's name. Yeah, okay. Yeah, she's Illyrian. Yes, exactly. All right. Are they all designed genetically engineered by default, or is it just,
I don't
or
know. I
is that a
wasn't sure.
species?
It's been a while. I forget now what
Yeah,
basically, but
but it's not
we
like,
obviously when the episode opened, I'm assuming it's been. I think they said it was 2 or 3 months afterwards, so that's why you see she's still in jail and still trying to figure out her defense and what they're gonna do, and and Pike, of course, doesn't give up, so he wants to help in any way he can.
of course it is. He's a friend and a colleague as well. And she will get out it somehow, but we don't. Gray and I discussed before. We don't want it to be just slap on the wrist and then that's it. We
Right.
want, because otherwise, this major rule that they have, whether you like it or not, is being violated several times within Star Trek now, and some people get let off with it too easy. So we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah.
Ray does mention that it's a Pikeless episode, and it is for the most part. That's the only little bit we get, little bit at the start, just so he then hands off command to Spock because he is going to go and speak to one of the best defense lawyers, if you like, in the whole of the quadrant to represent
Una.
number one and get her out of the slammer. So he'll be away for 3 days, but 2.5 in the new shuttles because faster. And then you see Spock shitting on himself basically. So he's just a commander at this stage, isn't he? So he's
Yeah,
not.
and I guess from what they were saying, this is the first time he got to be an acting captain. So he's like all nervous, like, oh my God.
Does he not get to lieutenant commander at some point? Because obviously Una is ahead of him, so must be. I don't know her rank. She must be lieutenant commander to be number one then.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Although I think a commander can be a number one. Anyway, so yeah, not much of Pike in this, which is fine. Listen, we have to rely on other guys and give some of the stars a break from time to time. And seeing Spock in the hot seat properly for the first time is brilliant. We then see Spock with his space instrument, as I call it, like a little space harp violin thingy, like a Vulcan one, which I have seen before in TOS Grey. But obviously, this is the one that we see from TOS. This is the first time he gets to use it because he's using it to de-stress, isn't he?
Yeah, the things I like about Strange New Worlds is because they know they came before in the timeline, they came before TOS. They keep on doing callbacks here and there and look at things that happened in TOS and then show the explanation behind it, which you never knew. So in TOS, he breaks out this Vulcan harp and he's playing it. And we're like, oh, I didn't know he played. And then now all of a sudden we see how that happened and how he got the Vulcan harp. And Mbenga gives it to him and tells him, here, when when your emotions are all messed up, translate this into some music. It'll make you feel better. And all of a sudden he pulls the harp out and I go like, okay. So that's where he got it from.
Why is he stressed out, Greg? You've noted down here why he's stressed out and what happened.
So he's basically still trying to get his emotions under control. He is half human. He's not good at it like he was later when he got used to doing this. So he went to Mbenga to say like, why, Mbenga goes, your neck is sore, your back hurts. If I didn't know any better, I would say that's human stress.
You need a
and
massage.
Then you see the indicators too, like heartbeat, whatever going on. And of course he gives him the instrument to calm down. So he takes the instrument. And of course, as soon as he starts playing it, you see the vitals start to come down, like, ooh,
And
calming.
then,
yeah, and then Nurse Chapel walks in, and it's blink, 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 blink.
he means indicators go up. That's what he was. He wasn't meaning anything else there.
No, nothing else.
No. He's mad. What's going on with those two? Obviously, we see a bit more for the episode. We don't see that kiss we see in the trailer, but he's a married man. Like, if someone one line again, Vulcan relationships are they're serious and forever and whatnot. But if you're away for home for an extended period of time, if you have another loved one in your life, like there's certain religions on Earth where you're allowed more than one wife and whatnot. So like, or husband. So why not? Why can't he have his cake and eat it?
Because they don't do that in Vulcan.
Oh well, clearly they do.
Well, in actuality, they're setting up slowly. They're setting up what ended up happening in the TOS, a mock time, and what that all transpired, because that's the first time we actually saw T'Pring was in the TOS. So they're setting up this whole thing of how that all kind of came about and why. So we're slowly going to see these things start to happen, and so forth. So it's kind of neat. It's like we're getting the backstory to stuff that we've always seen. So I especially being a TOS, from the beginning, I keep going like, oh, okay. So they start just kind of giving the backstory, and I like when they do that. If they do it properly, not like something stupid.
Bingo. If they don't make an arse of it and ruin canon, as we know, that really pisses us off. So that was amusing to see. Benga, we think he's going to start taking the piss out of Spock for it, but he's sympathetic to the issue. He's a man. He's got feelings as well. He understands what's what. So
he's more like he's helping him along. Whereas later in life, when he gets to Kirk's age, Bones sits there constantly making fun of him.
Yeah, because he's chilled out a bit more now. But I mean, yeah, you're right. Nice piss taking session. We're back up in the bridge now, and we see the worker guys going about just working on consoles, upgrading stuff. The Enterprise is getting a decent overhaul in the space of a few months. And someone comes up and tries and messes with Uhura's station. I've got to do something with the console here, and she's like, no, you get away, stay away from here. You can't take comms down. This is vitally important. Oh, I've got to go ahead and do this upgrade. It's essential. It'll only be down for a short while. Like, no, don't you dare touch. Let me just obviously use a backup circuit here, and we'll this is vital. And as she's doing that, she's obviously, we get to that moment, she does pick up something that comes through there. Not a distress call as such, but I liked seeing that little bit, Gray. I liked seeing a bit more of Uhura and her defending herself and telling this little skinny boy where to go.
Well, if you think about it, in TOS, Uhura was, when she had the chance to perform, she didn't take no crap from people. And she's basically, in this series, is doing the same thing. And by the way, before I forget, I don't know if you noticed, but at the very end of the episode, they did a nice little tribute to Nichelle Nichols' passing. Very, very nice at the very end, just to throw that in. But I thought it was great. I was sitting thinking, like, yeah, you go, girl. Tell that guy to get away from your damn console.
You know best. You know best what your job is and what you need and don't need from your equipment. So,
but if you think about it, what does that remind you of? Because you do IT work, right? It reminds you of almost everyday life. You have people telling you stuff like, no, don't touch it, and you're trying to tell them, yeah, but you don't get it. It's going to work better. Oh, no.
The people that think they know better and end up making it worse. Yeah, I know that type. So as I said, I alluded on, I touched on a moment ago. Sorry, he does actually pick up something there. It's not a distress signal as such. It's more of an important communique through from Lan Sung, who is in a bit of bother and she needs Enterprise assistance. So Spock does what any captain would do and goes to speak to top brass for permission to do so, and he ends up speaking to Admiral April. He's back again, which is good because I wanted to see more of this guy. Yeah, like the Admiral in Discovery. I want to see more of him.
And if I remember correctly, again, that's the same Admiral April who actually commanded the Enterprise before Pike.
Yes, and it's the same actor from season 1 who made one appearance. I think it was 1 or 2.
Yeah,
I want to see more of him, but he's like, no, we can't. It's too close to Klingon space, and the war's not long finished, and things are a bit too raw, and I can't sign off in it. Lands on extended leave, which she chose to do. We can't risk this for one person. I'm thinking, I'm sorry, it's still in Federation space. Last time I checked, or it certainly isn't Klingon space, so there shouldn't be a problem there. I thought he was being a bit of a dick, but don't come
Well,
to Admiral
yeah,
for
but
nothing.
he did explain though that he said the planet was for dilithium mining on both sides, Klingon and Federation, and they made a treaty or a pact that each month one or the other race takes control of the base or the planet, whatever.
Yeah, and they don't antagonize
So
that.
so this month it's the Klingons' turn. So they're saying, well, don't go there because the Klingons are in charge this month. They're going to get mad. And I thought that was a good explanation. If it had been the other way around, it wouldn't have mattered. But because it was, it made sense. For the sensitivity of that planet, they had to come up with that accord to work something out.
Making a deal with
That also
with the Klingons.
gave you the cool thing was it gave you a clear excuse of how to have the Klingons get involved again, because this time the Klingons weren't too nice to the Federation, right? They just finished their war. They're not real happy with the Federation, so you don't know if you come in contact as much with the Klingons. But this was a way to make it happen, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. I like the direction it went in as well. Spock though decides taking no for an answer, and he goes down to speak to his bridge crew, and he's like, I have to go and help her, and crew are like, what do you plan here? And I was so hoping, Gray, he was going to turn around with that, that little face he does where he's very straight, but he then almost does a people's eyebrow like The Rock does and raises his eyebrow.
Yeah, the one eyebrow thing, yeah.
and I thought he was going to turn around and go, shenanigans is afoot, or because he likes that word shenanigans, doesn't he? I thought the perfect opportunity to put that in, but no,
Yeah.
he didn't say that. He said, I have to steal the Enterprise. And they're like, oh, okay, right, fair enough. But he says, listen, if you don't want to be any part of this, that's fine, I understand, but we'll leave it be. But they're all loyal. They all said, yeah, we're going to do this, but we need a plan. And the plan was decent, I guess, Gray. I mean, it was like simulate a warp core breach, and I forget her name. The nav officer. He goes up and goes to engineer and goes up to one of the command consoles and typing away there. Red alert.
Yeah,
Well,
like
she's typing away. Then red alert. Like I think someone's going to put two and two together, but no, she walks away. Then she goes back in the bridge. And then we have a new person just walk onto the bridge. It's Commander Pellier, I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Yeah, Pelia, something like that.
Who is very, although it hasn't been confirmed officially yet, will be our new chief engineer. She just strolls on there. Spock's like, "Can I help you there, Commander Pellier?" And no, I find it a bit strange that a system or systems that we worked on a couple of days ago and got working to perfection could be faulty, and you're not doing this right and you're doing that wrong, and what you accusing us of doing. Spock's basically saying, because he can't lie, she sees through his bullshit basically, which is hilarious. And I'm thinking initially at this stage, and I've said it a couple of times throughout my notes, Gray, straight off the bat, she is absolutely brilliant. She's hilarious. She reminds me of that engineer from Discovery that we barely see, the kind of lady in her 40s, 50s, short hair. It's a kind of comedian famous in the States. I can't remember her name. And I'm thinking, absolutely brilliant. She sees through what they're doing. She says she just wants to help. And also because it's been like 100 years since she had engines of her own, and I'm thinking, she looks human.
Yeah, what?
Like, what the hell?
100 years,
human,
what?
But don't judge a book by its cover,
Well, I started thinking she was just saying that as a joke, so I go like, oh, okay, it's a joke.
Is she though? Is she? So, I mean, yeah, like, Gray, you know what species she is? It's a thing.
Yeah, apparently they mentioned the word lanthanite, and all of a sudden Spock is like interested to go, oh, I'm very interested. I know about lanthanites and so forth and so on. So apparently they're near immortal beings that look human, and they've been living on Earth. And Spock said that I was surprised at how the lanthanites stayed on Earth undiscovered until the 22nd century. I was like, oh,
he says that later on in the episode, which... Like, I mean, we may as well mention that just now. It's not really a problem. Right, you had a note down here, further down, about who the Lanthites could be.
Yeah, I was reading up a little bit to find, and I passed an interesting fact that I thought was kind of cool. They were saying now is the Lanthanite, now that the name is put onto a new to lore, and it is, but then they're trying to think of, well, is there any precedent to it in the original series? So when they look back, they found an episode called Requiem for Methuselah. It was season 3, episode 21, and they encountered a man, or human, like alien, or appeared to be human, but he was alien, whatever. And this guy was a human that was 6,000 years old, and he'd been living on Earth for centuries, almost all that time. And they found out that this guy was some of the famous people we learned about. So but he never really said what race he was. He was just talking about how he was able to stay alive that long or whatever. And so they're kind of like putting two to two together and saying like, this guy lived 6,000 years. These people live a long time.
Yeah,
It could be a lanthanite.
I thought it was fascinating, and that's why I put question mark. Like, not human. Like, what's going on here? I wasn't sure what to believe, because it could have been a joke. It could have been serious. But generally, I
Mhm.
didn't have any clue at this stage. Um, he's a bit witty and a bit jokey and a bit. She's my cup of tea. Very dry sense of humor, and she sees
Mhm.
through Spock's bullshit. So she's basically on board to help them out there, and he can't really do much about it. But she has a great idea to kind of vent some plasma from the side of from the cell to make it more believable. Which they do. They blow some plasma or whatever it was out of the side of the ship, and then that's when Space Dock go, right, yeah, get out here, man, before you blow. Just go, just detach and go from a safe distance from the station, and of course get far enough away to go the warp to where Lan is. So I like this new chief engineer. She's on Wiki as a recurrent character, not a main crew member, not a main cast grade, which is disappointing. She
I don't
is a chief
understand that though,
engineer.
because yeah, I was gonna say if she's chief engineer, then
Well, look at him. Or last time,
hmm.
I don't know what his position was, but he wasn't on as much as the rest of the bridge crew. So that's probably why, which is disappointing.
Yeah, but Scotty was always considered part of the regulars, and he wasn't on every single show. He was on plenty of them, yes, but not everyone. So what?
I
I'm
don't
not
get it
sure I
either.
understand that.
Don't get it
And
either,
it's
mate.
only gonna be it's only what, 10 episodes or whatever it is this season? I don't know. I guess we're gonna see as we go along.
Exactly. So just as before they're about to hit the go button, the engage button for warp, we have that bit from the trailer again where I can't remember now. Who's Ortega? Ortega, is that her
Yeah,
name again? The
Ortega
one
is the right.
the one
Yeah,
we don't
she's the
like.
pilot.
The one we don't like because she doesn't.
She grows on you, I guess, but yeah.
She just doesn't fit into Bridge. She's as a character on her own, she's fine. I like her sense of humor. It's cheeky chappy style, but she just doesn't fit in with the humor and the style of everyone else in the Bridge. That's what's wrong for me. Anyway, he says, "Are you gonna do the thing?" And he's like, "Thing? Oh, like when they're all in the chair and he says, "What do you have the thing like?" And she's like, "Yeah, I've been kind of brainstorming, and mine's is going to be vamos."
Yeah, or something.
I
Yeah,
was
it's
like,
like,
"Yeah,
huh?
okay, that's cool. I guess she's from Hispanic heritage, so sure." And they've all got their line. So then he sits there, and you just see him like gripping the chair. I don't know if excitement or he was flustered or whatever, but
It was like a whole build-up scene to what is he gonna say? What is he
tense.
gonna say?
I was
And
like,
they zoom in on his face.
is he constipated, Graham? Thinking at this stage, man,
Exactly.
And then he does what does he do? He does the eyebrow thing.
The what?
The eyebrow thing.
Yeah, fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
finally, kind of like
I can't do that. You can do that.
I can do
And
only one. I can only do one eye. This one. I
and
can't. I
then
can't do both.
and then the famous line, which is so bad it's good. I would like the ship to go now.
Right.
And he's so pleased with himself, you can see it in his face without seeing it because he's not supposed to have emotion. So, do you like this line, Gray? I'm a fan of this line.
Oh yeah, I thought it was great because he was sitting there thinking like, well, I did a good one there,
I
and the
done a
rest of the
good,
crew's going like, nah, that was
and
bad.
he's like patting himself the back. I done good there, good Spock.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully, he never has to say it again.
oh, I really hope he does. Well, unless Pike finds out what his line is and goes, "Yeah,
Well, it's funny
you're
now that you brought
demoted."
now that you brought the thing up about Pike, I wonder on the next episode he's got to say something about commandeering the
Please.
ship and doing what he did. The line's got to come up next
Well,
week
he's got to
somehow.
say, at least surely you had a good line if you're going to steal the ship. And then he
Yeah,
finds out what the line is, and he goes, "Right, you're in
you
your
need to work on
quarters, or
it.
you're brigged for the next week, man." That's shocking stuff.
Plus, by the time he finishes that line, somebody could attack him.
So yeah, they warp away, and we see Lan on this planet, and she's having a drinking competition with a Klingon, and she's winning. She's necking a couple of drinks, and I'm thinking, you don't see this, but I'm thinking she's taking something to counter the effects of the alcohol because Klingons can handle their drink, can't they? And she's just, yeah, no problem. Klingons struggling, but just about managing.
She's a
Found it.
tough security officer, though, so or head of security. She should be able to put a couple pints of blood wine down.
Yeah, a couple of pints. Couple of
Plus,
pints
he
of
looked at that Klingon. He was a piker. Yeah, he looked like a young whatever. Not one of the old craggy guys that can hold it down.
Exactly, Greg. You try to say the old guys can handle it better than you. Yeah,
In fact, you see him try. You see him during the competition. He's going,
and he
he
goes to
throws up.
spew. Yeah,
Yeah, he goes to spew, and the rest of the Klingons are going like, "Oh."
I've never seen a Klingon spew before. That's a first. Well, you don't see it, but you hear it. So,
Yeah.
so it looks at this stage here. We get some more information about what's going on. It looks like the Klingons, and as Gray's noted here as well, a rogue faction of Federation members are trying to restart the war with the Federation again for profit. Because I mean, I would assume that that's a very Ferengi thing to do, mate. But hey, I'm sure Klingons like money as well. So
it's greedy people everywhere.
So the rogue faction of Feds, yeah, I mean, I guess they're buying up equipment left, right, and centre. The Klingons, any Federation equipment they can get their hands on. There's a bit later on where Lan is selling phasers to the Klingons, and it's not what they wanted, and she starts threatening them, and they threaten her back, and they're just trying to get anything they can, and we'll get to why they're doing that as well. But it's good to see Lan back as well. And then we actually get to see some proper Federation Star Trekking goodness, and that's when Nurse Chapel, and Benga help a sick woman. This little girl seems to recognize him. Maybe that was something I missed in the first episode.
First season, there was a little girl. I forgot. It's the parents of the girl and the parents of the friend that was killed by the Gorn that Liana knows.
That's it, mate. Yes.
And then she found out that they came there somehow, whatever, and they were sick, and so they went to go help them, and anybody else they could help.
That makes sense. A lot of sense. So they help her. This lady will be okay in a day or so, and then a clown comes up randomly and at gunpoint requests their services and takes them away. They've not got no choice. Get phasers pointed at them, and I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? This is the cool bit, Gray. This is the cool bit. They're taken to an underground cavern, and we see a ship being built. And I thought for a split second, this is them starting to build a D7 or something, but you look carefully. No, it's a Starfleet vessel. It's got all the hallmark signatures of it as well. And Benga says, though, I think they're building that in here. They never brought it down. I think they literally started building it here. Here's where all the Federation parts are going to. But so when you saw that ship, did you not think, what the hell is going on, man?
Yeah, I was going, whoa, Federation, what's happening here? So yeah, now it makes all the sense in the world, though, because they want the war to start. So what better way than to build a ship and blame it on the Federation or whatever?
Some money, man.
Remember they said that they were doing triple and quadruple the price for dilithium because they have so much of it. And they're like rolling in dough. So they want to keep rolling in dough. So they're gonna start a war. War makes money for some people.
They want probably all the dilithium on that planet rather than sharing it 1 month on, 1 month off. And Benga and Chapel later on, when they're actually treating some people in this sick bay on this fake starship, or this cobbled together starship, They inject themselves with something to kind of speed up their metabolisms because they're going to have to fight their way to the bridge because they find out what's going on and they have to warn the Enterprise. And two people are not going to stand a chance, so they inject themselves with stuff that literally makes them go nuts. Partly it was something Benga done in season 1. I don't recall that. I must have forgotten that. Gray, do you remember?
I thought Chapel said something in reference to the war because both of them had been in the war, and I guess this was. I mean, there's heavy inferences that Benga has done this before or used this.
So we don't see it, but
chemical or whatever
to.
before,
right?
And they were just saying like, and then and he was saying like, I don't want to do this again, but I don't see where we have a choice. And
you
then
weren't too
she
happy
knows what he's talking about. No, because it got. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but then again, I thought it was a little goofy
over the top.
Yeah, because once they injected themselves, all right, fine, they inject themselves with some stuff that make them stronger, a little more powerful for a short time. But the stuff lasted forever, and they're beating up about 50 different Klingons.
No,
and
it does start wearing off a little bit after.
Towards the end, but in the meantime, they're knocking the crap out of like dozens of Klingons.
But that could have been a few minutes in actual real time as opposed to our viewpoint of the episode. Do you see what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, I'll go along with your excuse, but it still bothered me because it just seemed like
me too. Even if
Klingons can't be. I mean, how bad can these Klingons be?
Even if you're stronger, two people are still not going to start taking out the number of people they did. They wouldn't. I'm sorry. And their powers do start. Their powers. Listen to me. Oh, this isn't GGR. This is the Trek way. They're beefed up, coffee-induced Red Bull.
Whatever it is.
Mixture that they take.
This green stuff made by the Borgs or something.
It's green.
That's right.
Makes them go a bit nuts. Yeah, it was a little bit over the top, but you do see a little bit where Chapel is actually struggling to take a couple of them down, like it was starting to wear off. So,
but only when it wore off. Otherwise, she's like thinner and lighter than Mbenga, and she's taking out these big hulking Klingons.
The Klingons are bad though, weren't they? It's like, come on, you guys are supposed to be warriors. You couldn't fit your way out of a wet paper bag.
I mean, that's embarrassing to Klingons. I'm sitting there going like, oh, if you're a Klingon fan, you're just wincing, going like, yeah.
Get my ass kicked by a skinny human girl.
Exactly.
But
so that kind of that wasn't enough to ruin the episode, but it was a little much.
It was a little bit.
I would like to have seen them maybe taking out a few, and then maybe instead of just giving themselves a shot, they should have had something else that they could have just shot them with and knocked them out. Snuck up behind them and given them injections.
How many of them you got? Mama, this isn't bloody Splinter Cell. This isn't Metal Gear Solid or something.
But that would have been a little more understandable. Okay, they knocked a few out with drugs, and then they took a couple out. Okay, that's better. But to take them all out like that,
slightly more believable. Yeah. No, it was a bit of a mess scene. They had to find a way to get to the bridge. They actually. The transponder of this ship, of every starship has one, is only for identifying what the ship is, basically, for other Starfleet vessels. And Benga reprograms that, basically, to send out a message there, while Chapel's struggling to hold them off. They're running out of the Red Bull mixture that she's on and just about holding them off. That's some Red Bull, man.
That's another thing that got me crazy. I'm sitting there going, I need a minute. And here's this skinny girl gonna go knock out more Klingons. I'm like, oh, God. And again, Jesus.
As they send the message, they're about to try and make a break for it out the airlock, but then the ship starts moving. I'm thinking they're taking off, aren't they? Yep, they look out the window and it's slowly rising up the way. I'm thinking, oh well, the shit's about to hit the fan here. And then next scene, finally, Grey are big fans of this. Obviously, Starfleet Federation, first and foremost. I always pick them in any Star Trek game before any other race, the way it is. But we then see the new, old, but new, D7 Klingon battleship that we were talking about before. Bear in mind, this is a prequel, so we haven't seen it properly before. This is the first time we'll get to see it before TOS. And it looks spectacular. Not like that ship from Discovery, the Esophagus ship. That looked like a monstrosity, that thing, man.
Mm.
But this D7 battleship looked fantastic, great. I wish I had a
Yeah,
model of
look
it.
great. We didn't have enough. We didn't get to see enough of it, but what we did see, they look really good.
Have you got one? You got a model?
A D7. Not right with me right now. I might have one. I gotta look. I know I had one.
Bird of Prey.
I know I had one in the past. A
Romulan
D7. I don't
ships,
remember.
but no.
I don't know if I still have it.
And those guys stopped making them. The guys, Eagle Boss, they stopped making them because they went bankrupt. So anyway,
someone will pick up the mantle and make them again. I remember I had a D7. I don't know if it was one of the metal ones or whether I had put it together in a model kit, but I did have one. I remember. I even built. I actually I don't have the original anymore, but I actually built an Enterprise model kit when it came out years ago. And if you can find one of the original models, I mean, not built and still in a box, it's worth a bunch of money.
Yeah, it is, mate. It was fantastic to see this ship though, because they were working on it before, weren't they? So we get to finally see it. The Enterprise is hiding though in an asteroid field, and hiding pretty well actually, despite being not that far away. Combination of radiation and the ores and on asteroids, hiding it. In fact, they're in low power mode. They're hiding out so as to not antagonize anyone because they're not supposed to be there. Gray mentions again, D7 looked great. I have to concur with that, Gray. Enterprise gets the message from Mbenga and Chapel that this ship has to be fired upon. They know what that means, basically. They ask them to destroy the fake starship, basically, because this fake starship is going to fire on the D7. The D7, as far as we're aware at this stage, doesn't know what's going on. Right. So they start chasing after this fake starship. The fake starship keeps shooting back at them, and Spock's holding off for as long as possible because they're still hidden at this point, and doesn't want to kill his new lovebird Chapel and his good pal Mbenga. So he doesn't. He lays off firing for now. And then, unfortunately, the bit from the trailer that we did see just before Spock orders the Enterprise to fire upon the fake starship, and Mbenga and Chapel do have to try and get out, but they don't have any spacesuits. They have like a transponder, that's it. I remember Mbenga saying, Gray, that, well, no, actually, no. He says, we've got out of better, we've got out worse than in the past, haven't we? Chapel's like, no. We really haven't, but thank you for trying to be nice.
I think he had some kind of a suit that he could at least guide them out the door.
Yeah, it was like
but that was all they really had.
It was like a thruster thing with a transponder on it, wasn't it? So no spacesuits at all. And I think it was accurate what they said. We have a minute before they freeze, but we'll black out in 15 seconds, which is what happens in real life. You go to space, so at least they're true to it. And you're thinking, oh dear, here we go. Will they actually do it in time? And they keep holding off, the Enterprise keeps holding off firing, and you're just like, you can see Spock there, like, just really not wanting to give the order, and then he's kind of pushing, like, fire torpedoes, blows up the fake starship, and you can see a tear in his eye, and he realizes he's just killed his
friends,
his new love interest, and you're just like, okay, right, this is. I like to see the emotion in Spock. Like, we touch in a moment how bad it actually is, but did you think at this? I mean, obviously they're going to survive those two, Grey, aren't they? Because they have to. But
sure,
when you see them come out of the space, the airlock, do you think maybe one of them bites the dust? Or are you thinking they're both safe? They have to be.
Nah, I'm thinking they're both safe. Well, mainly because we've already seen the clips from later in the season.
Oh, have we now? Of all of them in every episode.
I didn't think they were gonna die. If it was somebody else that was, we didn't really know much, maybe.
What a red jacket,
red shirt,
or something, yeah.
I mean, they've already gotten rid of Hemmer. I don't think they're gonna really get rid of anybody else because the fandom already likes these characters a lot, and they liked Hemmer a lot too, and he's gone. So I don't think they're gonna kill anybody off. They might come close, but yeah.
Well, thankfully for us, for you, the Enterprise does get them just in time, picks up the transporter, and the thing is, right, Spock says beam them up. He doesn't say beam them straight to, or can he do that? Maybe they can't do that at this stage in Strange New Worlds.
True.
Maybe you can't.
That's
You
true.
have to beam straight to the transporter pad. You
Yeah,
can't do
yeah,
it to a bit on the ship. Maybe that's. I never thought of that. Oh, makes sense.
yeah. Because when they started doing that, you're right. They introduced doing that in TNG, not in TOS.
So there you go. They probably don't have the
So,
technology to do it. It has to be landing pad to landing pad, or fixed
right,
point to landing pad, or transporter pad, should I say? So yeah,
right.
they do get beamed back both aboard, and Benga does slowly wake up, but Chapel she's out for the count, and all that fake snow and frost on her that Hollywood still haven't got good at making realistic snow or frost yet. But one of these days they'll get to it. And then Spock comes running down, doesn't he? He's a bit emotional, and tries
Then we
to.
see the tear come out.
Well, we no, but we saw it before, but we saw it more so, didn't it? It was more pronounced now. It was.
This time was a real tear coming down. Before his eyes were welling up, but he didn't really tear. This was a full blasted tear coming down. I'm going like, oh, I don't know.
It's
It's a little much.
yeah. Well, I certainly get to that at one point. In fact, no, I may as well mention it in a moment. I think we do see a bit too much emotion from Spock. I mean, I get that this is a prequel, and in TOS,
Mhm.
he's managed to conquer his human side a bit more. And while he's half human, I don't have a problem with it, is my point, Gray. I just think man up a little bit more is what I'm being brutal. Man up a little
Yeah,
bit, mate. You
yeah.
know, it's like, come on, dial it back a bit. Everyone struggles with it. You just need to deal with it and do what us humans do,
Well,
you know?
one of the things I wanted to mention was, and I had meant it in an earlier scene, they kind of have written in the reason slash excuse as to why he's showing more emotion, and that was the fact that Mbenga tells him that when he in season one, when he got angry, when the Gorn was around, and he lost his temper and he was punching stuff, and then he said that right then he said, "You Vulcans are people that build mental, proper mental blocks to block all your emotions." And of course, you being half human, it's harder even for you to do that. But once that episode happened to you, all those barriers are completely down, and now you have to learn how to put them back up again. So
That's
he
when they went
dropped
nuts, though. Do you remember what happened? Do you recall,
right.
for
I
everyone's
don't
sake, what happened?
I don't remember exactly. He had to release emotion at that point to do something. I can't remember what it was. But the problem was is that doing so is harder for him because he's not trained enough dealing with his human half. So I'm not going to say it's an excuse, but they did build in the reason for supposedly him now
True.
trying to control his emotions, and it's going to be tough on him. But it still bothers me because okay, you've given the reason, fine, all right. I guess I'm gonna have to go along with that one. But even so, I do think that was a lot of emotion for one episode. I mean, if you're gonna do that, spread the emotions out across episodes where it's a little
Yeah,
here and then
yeah,
maybe 2 or 3 episodes down there, a little bit.
yeah.
It's just was too much. So they really need to back off a little bit. And I know the Vulcan purists out there are screaming already. They gotta be, and stuff. So, but just yeah, I would like them
Dial
to
it
back
back a
off
bit.
a little bit.
Agreed, mate.
Yeah,
Agreed. Um, but yeah, he does give CPR to Chapel. No mouth to mouth.
yeah. I was wondering about that. I was gonna get
Yeah,
to it. I thought,
maybe COVID times. You're warned not to do that, so I don't know. He just went for CPR.
or maybe they did it, but they didn't want to put it in there.
To be fair, in all seriousness, I think they were probably filming this season towards the very end of the COVID times anyway. So maybe it's just a risk they didn't want to take when they were making it. But yeah, he gives her CPR. She does wake up and she says, "Don't be so rough." He must have been going ham because when you do, I've done first aid training. They teach you like you think you're going to break their rib cage. You are, but you have to go over that, or otherwise they'll die, and you have to push it down a good inch at least.
mm,
So, and that does the damage. So yeah, she's waking up feeling a bit sore, but she's very sweet. She puts her hand on his face and it's all good. And they both recover, but then the D7 hails the Enterprise and Spock speaks to them, and he's trying to defuse the situation. Klingon captain doesn't have a clue what's going on. He's not
by the way,
part
as
of
a
it.
note, the guy playing the Klingon captain at that
You
scene,
recognize him?
no, but that's what a Klingon should be like right there. It was now we're getting to the typical Klingon. He was all rough and tumble and going like, yeah, what makes you think, I wouldn't have just shot first, or I would have done this, or I would have done
Yeah.
that. So that was more like the Klingon that I remember, and I'm going like, yeah, all right,
Well,
put up a fight.
clearly the actor has done his research or watched Star Trek or been a fan in the past and knows what it takes to do the part. So no, I like this captain. But Spock tries to defuse the situation. He's like, listen, we weren't lying. We fired upon them because we were trying to start a war with you. Why would I lie? Vulcans don't lie. Klingon captain's like, I don't care. Like, I'm not believing in a legend. And then Spock goes, which was a classic movie, went, shall we discuss this over a barrel of blood wine? And then you could almost see the Klingon sitting back going, what? What did I hear from a Vulcan? You want to go out get drinking with me? Like, we're supposed to be enemies. You want to go drinking? He's like, listen, I've drank. I've been known to have a glass or two or a barrel or two of blood wine in the past. And the captain goes, okay, this I need to see, right? That's fine. And then you go down to the planet and you see them both, again, the bit from the trailer where he's taking a big pint and he's gasping, holding his own.
Right.
Holding his own against the Klingons, and
then of course he gets the rawr. He starts going,
yeah.
Like, I thought it was a Klingon pirate for a while.
It's like Star Trek's in the Caribbean here, man. What's going on? It was a nice scene though, but then we get, and that diffuses the situation, which is great. But then we have a little nice scene between Spock and the new engineer. Pelia.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. And he talks to Spock, and she goes, "No, I am." It's pronunciation. Lanthanite? No, I can't do it, Gray.
Lanthanite.
Lanthanite. There you go. You're better at words than I am. Lanthanite, which, because I at the start wasn't sure if it was true or not. Like I said to Gray, is bullshitting, but she's like, no, I generally am, and that's the bit Gray and I talked about been living on Earth for ages. They're almost immortal. I'd like to know more about this species, Gray, because being almost immortal, I've never heard of that in Star Trek before. You're either a god like Q who lives forever, or you are someone who can live longer than usual, like a Vulcan lives 300 years or something like that, and a human is getting closer maybe to a human at this stage who can live to between 150 and 200 in a really good day. So I'm thinking someone that's nearly immortal that looks human is kind of fascinating, and I'd like to know more about this species going forwards. But she's like, no, you know why I basically done what I done earlier on, and that was, and he said, because you don't want to be alone. And she went, no, dummy, everyone that's living goes through that, being alone sometimes. No, she went, she changes some series, and then she goes, because I was bored. That's why I helped you.
Yeah.
And I've just I'm like, here's a little cheeky face come alive again, and she's like, because he comes over.
It was a really good line. It was a really good line because it looked like they were playing the music in the background that sounded like real somber, like when you've seen many friends die and you hear the music going, and she goes, no, idiot, I'm bored shitless. It's like, oh,
right, because he comes over.
Never thought of it that way.
He comes over with a couple of drinks in him, and to which she picks up on that, and like, oh yeah, come over here, getting all big and high and mighty with yourself after a couple of drinks. But it was a nice little scene here. She's like, what would you think of me hanging around for a bit longer? And I don't know if we ever got confirmation of that, but obviously we do, because she's but she is brilliant. I can't wait to see her a bit more. And then, oh yeah, great! You found out who the lady was, Carol Kane. Did you know who she was?
Yeah, because I'm a little older than you, so I've seen her around before.
Are you?
So
you're a bit older than me, are you?
Yeah, just a little. So when I saw her, I instantly knew who she was. Her name's Carol Kane, and she's a very accomplished actress. And if you do a little look up on her if you look her up on Wikipedia or IMDb, you'll see she's done a lot of stuff, all different kinds of stuff.
Does she sound like that in real life, or is she putting that accent on? Because she has
that accent. No, the tone of her voice is her, but that accent is that's different. She's played many parts in television shows where she's put on all kinds of accents.
Just like another engineer we knew.
Yes, exactly.
Engineers and accent.
And the only thing that was interesting was that you did have to pay attention a little bit because her accent. I was kind of losing what she was saying here and there. I had to back it up once or twice because the accent was getting a little bit thick, so I wasn't sure what she was saying sometimes. But I'm sure they'll smooth that out. But
Yeah.
she showed she's awfully smart. So
Oh, she knows. She's seen
that's
through the
cool.
bullshit. She knows.
Yep. Yep.
And hey, she sounds good enough to keep around. So why not? Spock's then getting
Sure.
his dressing down from Admiralty, and April's giving him into trouble for what happened. And he said, "Listen, I followed my gut, as you humans say I had to do it." And he's like, "Yeah, I see what you're meaning, but." Well, you saved the day. It could have easily went the opposite direction, which is true. What he's
Yeah.
saying is accurate. It was a 50-50 shot. They won this time, but they could have easily made things worse in World War II for the Klingons when it happened again. Um,
Right.
but I'm noting here he gets away a bit too easy because at one point he says, Spock, he's like, "Can you lower your volume of your voice a little bit, Admiral?" And I'm thinking it took me a split second to realise he's a bit hungover because Admiral
Yeah.
the Admiral says as much, but I'm still thinking, you can't speak to an Admiral like that. You can't tell him to lower his voice. A little bit cheeky
He
that,
probably
but
gets away with it because he's Vulcan. So yeah.
exactly. So I note here that he does get away with it a bit too easy. Before we know what we know in a minute, Gray, though, do you not think he gets away with it a bit too easy, a slap in the wrist for what he done?
Um, I thought maybe a little bit, but I guess like, April was being a bit nice because it was the first time and it was a big deal and it did come out okay. But like you said, though, you said you do it again and you lost your commission. That means he's out for good. So
Which is
yeah,
fair.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I mean, yeah, it's his punishment is the hangover, basically. That is,
yeah. The admiral says, yeah,
which is which is fine. Um, and I mentioned from before about the too much emotion thing again, but I think
yeah,
because this is a do see quite a bit of emotion from Spock that I think it's just because this is a prequel to the original series, we'll get a bit more of this emotional stuff before he calms down a little bit, which is fine. But the ending, though, great. The ending, I didn't see this coming. I just thought it was going to end normally, and I was happy with that. But
yeah.
one of the admirals said to April, "I thought you let him away with that a bit too easy. Thank you, other admiral." I never caught his name. And
Right.
then he says, "Yeah, but he's one of our own, and he's one of our best,
Well,
and
he's one of the best, and we're going to need him.
if we're going to need him again for this war, if it was going to happen again." And you're like, "Huh? You want this war? What? You part of this conspiracy here? Here we go
That's
again,
what I thought.
conspiracy,
Right.
man."
Exactly. I
But
thought, wait a minute, he's part of it. That's exactly what I thought.
we see a Gorn ship incoming. We don't know if it's incoming to them right now to attack them. I presume so, but I don't know. Just says Gorn attack ship incoming. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here, Craig? What do we think? I
Exactly.
don't. Do you think is Admiral April really wanting a war with the Klingons again?
No,
Is it not?
no, I think what he was saying was, and it was a good way they wrote it because we did think that he was part of the conspiracy to start another war with the Klingon.
Yeah,
But then as they went to the Gorn, he's preparing. He doesn't want to knock out all his great officers because he knows war is probably going to be inevitable with the Gorn. So he has to prepare ahead of time. Like any good defensive guy, he has to be 2 steps ahead if he can be.
yeah,
So he sees it coming and he says, "No, we're going to need all our good officers for what's coming."
which is true.
So that which is a big setup. So we know that that's going to be the underlying arc. We can tell already. On top of the episodic stuff.
War with
So
the Gorn, I'll take that as long as we don't see them again properly.
sure.
You've got a quick name drop here, a quick note that you put underneath as well, Grace. Something you picked up on.
Yeah, when I was listening to Chapel at the beginning of the show, she was talking to Mabenga because she had went on a 2-month internship on Vulcan, but she drops the name Dr. Roger Corby,
Yeah,
and I remembered that name, and I
so
and
do
I
I.
went, wait a minute, that was in TOS. I gotta figure this out. And so as I looked it up, sure enough, season 1, episode 7, there was an episode called "What Are Little Girls Made Of," and it was a TOS episode where Roger Corby, who was to be at that time was the fiance of Nurse Chapel in that episode.
Eh,
Okay, and Nurse
yeah.
Chapel just went to see him. See, this is before the romance started, but eventually it's turned into a fiance kind of thing.
Yep.
And then a side note, only to people that remember the original Addams Family show in the late 1960s, which was rerun many times. Ted Cassidy, the big guy, big tall guy that played Lurch, played one of the alien guys in this episode as well. He was really good, actually. He was really good.
There you go.
So just a little name drop. I like when they do something like that because it does apply to exactly the character, and it does apply later to what happened.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting. They just kind of threw that in there to draw the history lines.
You have a good ear,
You know.
Gray. Well done for picking that one up.
Sure.
So yeah, very decent episode. No complaints there, really. We haven't mentioned it below, but what would you give it out of 10, Gray? I put you on the spot.
Probably go with an 8.
Okay,
I think.
interesting. Right, 7.5 for me. But quite
Okay.
8, close. It doesn't seem it's quite an 8, but hey, anything above a 7 is usually deemed good for me anyway, so I'll take that. Well, I'd take it, Gray. No problem. You haven't checked. We didn't have any teaser trailers at this stage, did we? Or did you see any?
Actually, I didn't even look for one, so I'm not really sure, to be honest.
If there is one next week for next week's episode for episode 3, we'll do one. I guess. Thing is, they're streaming this for most of the world on the same day now, which never used to be the case. So Grey's in the States, I'm in the UK. Paramount Plus is showing it on the same day. It's always the day after. It's the same day. So actually, technically, I can watch it before Grey gets it. That never happened before. But no, I don't.
And a lot of times, and a lot of times the teaser trailers can't come out too soon, so they tend to do it more towards the end of the day, which may be in time for us, may not be in time for us.
Exactly, man.
But
yeah, all good.
They used to never do that. But well, actually, I take that back. In the old days when they used to show Star Trek and a lot of other shows, they always put next week on Star Trek. And
many shows, mate. Many shows.
Sure, and you see, oh no, what's this?
Like you did. But we'll quickly do the call to arms. So yeah, we're on YouTube, but of course you can find the Trekway on YouTube podcasts and all other podcasts wherever you get your podcasts from. We're on all of them pretty much. On Twitter at the Trekway as well. And don't forget Grey's Green Room. We're taking a bit of a hiatus just because Hollywood strikes and all that kind of stuff. There's not as much to talk about, but we've skipped an episode. We'll be back sooner rather than later. We'll do the more stuff. And that's Grey's Green Room on the YouTubes, on the podcasts, on the Twitters as well. And then listen, if you guys like gaming as well, we'll talk about any Star Trek games, which we did in last week's episode. We, along with our friend Nick, Extreme PC UK, we do a gaming pod every Thursday as well, and today's our 200th special. So by the time you listen to this, you could just go back on YouTube and find them at Extreme PC UK and watch it. If you listen to this quick enough, you probably won't. I don't know if I can get it out that quick, but I'll try. Then you can grab Nick and see all of us at the same time. But I think that's us until next week, mate. It was good to be back to covering Trek
thumbs
again.
Up down there.
But yeah, do the thumbs up and do what the man says. But yeah, I'd like comments from people as well. So what you like and you don't like in terms of reviews and specials and what that we do. Until next week, though, Gray, thanks for coming along and do your thing, mate.
Live long and prosper.
Yes.
See you later.
Bye bye.